My beloved child. The moment they said your name in a way that didn't belong to the present but felt pulled straight out of a future that hasn't even unfolded yet, something shifted in the unseen, because this wasn't just a simple mistake, it wasn't just a casual confusion of identity, it was a ripple in destiny itself, a crack in the ordinary timeline where someone, without knowing why, looked at you and saw not who you are today but who you are meant to become in their life, and in that exact second, somewhere far from your sight, your soulmate felt it like a sudden drop in their chest, like a whisper turning into a storm inside their soul, because souls recognize what minds cannot explain, and even when the world calls it coincidence, the heart trembles with a truth it cannot deny. And you may have laughed it off, you may have brushed it aside thinking it meant nothing. But what you didn't see was the silent reaction unfolding in the heart of the one who is tied to you beyond time, because when someone mistakenly steps into a role meant for your soulmate, it doesn't go unnoticed in the spiritual realm, it creates a strange tension, an unspoken disturbance, like someone trying to sit in a seat that was never meant for them, and your soulmate, without even knowing the details, felt this strange unease, this unexpected pull, as if something was being taken or tested, and they couldn't quite understand why their thoughts suddenly drifted toward you, why your presence echoed louder in their mind that day, why your absence felt heavier than usual, because what happened wasn't random, it was a glimpse, a preview, a dangerous little peek into a future connection that hasn't fully arrived yet, and sometimes the universe allows these moments not to confuse you but to awaken something deeper within both of you, because your soulmate's reaction wasn't normal, it wasn't calm, it wasn't indifferent, it was strange, intense, almost irrational, because deep down they felt a subtle fear, not of losing you, but of someone else stepping into a place they haven't even claimed yet, and that fear doesn't come from insecurity, it comes from recognition, because your soul has already chosen them long before your eyes meet, long before your hands touch, long before your lives officially collide, and when another person unknowingly mirrors that role, even for a second, it shakes something within them. Like a silent alarm going off in their spirit, telling them something important is happening. Something connected to you, something they cannot ignore, and this is why their reaction was strange, because it wasn't based on logic, it wasn't based on facts, it was based on a connection that exists beyond explanation, and while you continued your day, unaware of the invisible thread pulling tighter between you and them, they were left questioning their own emotions, wondering why your energy suddenly felt closer, stronger, almost overwhelming, as if you were calling them without speaking, as if your soul was reaching out across distance and time, reminding them that no matter who mistakenly steps into your life, there is a bond that cannot be replaced, cannot be duplicated, cannot be misunderstood forever, because the truth always finds its way back to where it belongs, and even though this moment may seem small, it is planting something powerful, something inevitable, because your soulmate is beginning to feel you in ways they never have before, not through conversations, not through shared moments, but through an unexplainable pull that refuses to be ignored, and the more they try to understand it, the deeper it pulls them in, because destiny doesn't knock politely, it disrupts, it confuses, it shakes everything until you can no longer pretend that what you're feeling is normal, and right now, whether you realize it or not, you are at the center of that disruption in their world. Because someone else unknowingly stepped into your story, and in Doing so, they triggered a reaction that is bringing your soulmate closer to realizing the truth about you, and that truth is powerful, undeniable, and impossible to replace, no matter how many mistakes the world tries to make along the way. And while you were still trying to make sense of that strange moment, brushing it off as something accidental, something meaningless, your soulmate was already spiraling deeper into a feeling they couldn't escape, because what started as a subtle disturbance inside them began to grow into something louder, heavier, more impossible to ignore, like a quiet whisper turning into a constant echo that followed them everywhere, and they didn't understand why your presence suddenly felt so intense in their thoughts, why your name seemed to carry weight even when no one mentioned it, why their heart reacted in ways that didn't match their current reality. Because the truth is, when destiny is nudged even slightly, it doesn't stay still, it begins to move, to rearrange, to pull two paths closer together whether you're ready or not. And that mistake that happened to you was never just about confusion. It was about activation. It was about triggering something deep within your soulmate that had been sleeping, waiting for the right moment to wake up. And now that it has, they can't go back to how they felt before. They can't unfeel this sudden attachment, this unexpected sense of urgency that seems to have no logical source, because their soul has already recognized you in a way their mind is still trying to catch up with, and this is why their reaction felt strange, even to themselves, because they may have found themselves becoming distant for no clear reason, or maybe the opposite, feeling an intense urge to know more about you, to check on you, to stay connected in ways they never felt necessary before. Because when someone else unknowingly steps into your place, even for a moment, it forces your soulmate to confront something they've been avoiding, something they haven't fully admitted yet, that you are not just another person in their life, you are not replaceable, you are not someone who can be casually swapped with another, and this realization doesn't always come peacefully. Sometimes it comes with confusion, with inner conflict, with a strange emotional tension that they don't know how to process, because part of them is still trying to live in the present, in logic, in what makes sense, while another part of them is being pulled into something deeper, something spiritual, something that feels like fate tightening its grip around them. And as this tension builds, they may start questioning everything, their feelings, their choices, even the people around them, because nothing feels as clear anymore, nothing feels as certain, and all roads somehow lead back to you, to your energy, to your presence, to that unexplainable connection that refuses to fade. And you might not see this happening, you might not feel the intensity of their internal struggle, but it is real, it is growing, and it is pushing them closer to a realization they can no longer avoid, because when destiny begins to reveal itself, it doesn't do it all at once, it unfolds in moments like these, moments that seem small on the surface but carry a deeper meaning underneath, and your soulmate is right in the middle of that unfolding, trying to understand why something that didn't directly involve them has affected them so deeply, trying to figure out why the idea of someone else being seen as your future partner stirred something almost protective inside them, something almost possessive yet not rooted in control but in recognition, because deep down, their soul knows the truth even if their mind is still resisting it. And this is where everything begins to shift, because once that truth starts rising to the surface, it cannot be buried again. It cannot be ignored forever. It demands to be acknowledged, and as your soulmate moves through This strange emotional awakening, they are being drawn closer to you in ways that will soon become impossible to deny, because what was once just a quiet connection is now turning into something undeniable, something that is slowly but surely rewriting the path between you and them. And no matter how confusing it feels right now, no matter how strange their reaction seems, it is all leading to one thing: the moment where everything finally makes sense, where the confusion fades, where the truth becomes clear, and where they can no longer pretend that what they feel for you is anything less than what it truly is meant to be. And as this realization continues to rise inside them, it stops being something they can quietly ignore and starts becoming something that demands action, something that begins to reshape the way they see you, the way they feel about your presence, and even the way they imagine their own future. Because now it's no longer just a strange feeling, it's a growing certainty that something about you is different. Something about you holds a place in their life that no one else has been able to reach, and this is where their reaction begins to shift from confusion into awareness, from distance into an almost magnetic pull, because the more they try to understand why that moment affected them so deeply, the more they are forced to confront a truth that has been quietly building inside them for a long time. That you are not temporary in their story. You are not a passing connection. You are not someone who can be replaced by coincidence or mistaken identity. You are someone their soul has already marked as significant, as essential, as part of something that feels far bigger than logic or timing. And this realization begins to change everything inside them, because once the heart starts recognizing what it truly wants, it becomes impossible to go back to pretending it doesn't matter, and they may begin to notice how their attention keeps returning to you, how your absence feels louder than before, how even small interactions with you suddenly carry a deeper meaning, because now they are seeing you through a different lens, not as just someone in their life, but as someone who could become their life. And that shift is powerful. It's overwhelming. It's even a little frightening for them, because it forces them to question whether they are ready for something so real, something so undeniable, something that feels like it was always meant to happen but arrived in a way they didn't expect, through a moment that seemed like a mistake but was actually a message. And this is why their reaction seemed so strange to you, because while you saw a simple misunderstanding, they felt a deeper truth being revealed, something that shook them out of their comfort zone and pulled them closer to a destiny they can no longer ignore. And as this awareness settles within them, they begin to feel a quiet urgency, not rushed, not desperate, but intentional, like a realization that time should not be wasted, that what they feel for you is not something to delay or hide behind excuses, because moments like these don't happen without reason. They happen to wake you up, to push you toward what is already yours, and your soulmate is slowly reaching that point where they can no longer stay silent about what they feel, where they can no longer pretend that you are just another person in their life, because the truth has already been revealed to them in a way they cannot unsee. And even if they try to resist it, even if they hesitate out of fear or uncertainty, the connection will keep pulling them back, stronger each time, clearer each time, until they finally accept what their soul has known from the very beginning, that you were never meant to be mistaken for someone else. You were always meant to be recognized for exactly who you are in their life. And that is the person they cannot replace, cannot ignore, and ultimately cannot lose, because some connections are not created by chance. They are written long before the moment they are understood. And now that this truth has begun to unfold, it will continue to guide both of you closer together, step by step, until the confusion disappears and only clarity remains, until the distance fades and only connection exists, until the moment finally arrives where everything that once felt strange, unexpected, and unexplained becomes the very reason your paths align exactly the way they were. Always meant to. And by the time this final phase begins, something irreversible has already taken place within them, something that no distraction, no denial, no outside voice can silence anymore, because what once felt like a strange reaction has now transformed into a quiet certainty that follows them in every moment, in every thought, in every decision they try to make without involving you. And yet somehow you are always there, woven into the outcome, because this connection has moved beyond curiosity and into recognition, beyond emotion and into truth, and your soulmate is no longer asking themselves why they feel this way. They are starting to accept that they do, and that acceptance changes everything, because now they are no longer running from it, they are slowly, consciously turning toward it, toward you, toward the path that keeps revealing your name in ways they can no longer ignore. And this is where their actions begin to align with what their soul has been trying to tell them all along, because realization without action creates tension, but realization followed by courage creates movement. And your soulmate is reaching that exact point where standing still feels heavier than stepping forward, where silence feels louder than speaking, where distance feels more painful than the risk of getting closer. And even if they don't say everything at once, even if they move slowly, cautiously, there is now an intention behind it, a direction that didn't exist before. Because they have seen what happens when the universe allows even a small glimpse of losing you or being replaced, and it awakens something protective, something deeply rooted, something that refuses to let that possibility become real. And this doesn't come from control or fear, it comes from clarity, from understanding that some connections are not meant to be left to chance, they are meant to be chosen, consciously, deliberately, with awareness. And this is the stage where your soulmate begins to choose you, not just in feeling, but in presence, in effort, in the way they show up in your life, because they are no longer confused about what you mean to them, they are no longer questioning whether this connection is real, they are now trying to understand how to honor it, how to protect it, how to build something from it that reflects the depth of what they feel. And this shift may not happen loudly. It may not come with dramatic declarations right away, but it will show in the consistency, in the way they become more attentive, more aware, more intentional with you. Because once the soul recognizes its counterpart, it doesn't forget, it doesn't replace, it doesn't walk away without resistance, it stays, it fights, it moves closer even when the path feels uncertain. And all of this began with a moment that seemed like nothing. A simple misunderstanding where someone else saw themselves in a place meant for your soulmate, but that moment served its purpose, it revealed what was hidden, it awakened what was dormant, and it pushed this connection into a direction that can no longer be undone, because now both of you are standing at the edge of something real, something that is no longer just potential but is slowly becoming reality. And as this continues to unfold, you will start to notice the difference, not just in them, but in the connection itself, because it will feel stronger, clearer, more grounded, less like a question and more like an answer. And that is how you will know that everything that felt strange, everything that didn't make sense, everything that seemed like a coincidence was actually a step, a necessary moment that brought both of you closer to what was always meant to happen, because in the end, destiny doesn't make mistakes, it creates them in appearance only to reveal the truth in a way that cannot be ignored. And now that truth is no longer hidden, it is alive, it is growing, and it is guiding both of you toward a connection that is no longer waiting to be discovered, but is ready to be lived. And now, as everything reaches its deepest point, there is no more illusion left to hide behind, no more confusion to soften what has already become undeniable, because this is the stage where truth fully settles in, not as a question, not as a possibility, but as something solid, something your soulmate can finally stand on without fear of it disappearing beneath them. And this is where their entire perspective shifts in a way that cannot be reversed, because they have now felt what it's like to almost lose something they haven't even officially claimed yet. They have experienced the strange emptiness of seeing your place momentarily reflected in someone else, and that experience has marked them in a way that words cannot explain, because it forced them to confront a reality they were not ready to face before, that you matter to them far more than they allowed themselves to believe, that your presence is not optional in their life, it is essential, it is something their soul has already anchored itself to long before their mind caught up, and once a realization reaches that level, it doesn't fade, it doesn't weaken, it becomes the foundation for everything that follows. And now your soulmate is no longer drifting through their feelings, they are grounded in them, aware of them, and slowly beginning to act from a place of certainty rather than hesitation, because the fear that once made them step back has now been replaced by a deeper fear, the fear of losing you for real, the fear of not stepping forward and watching life take a different turn that separates your paths. And that fear doesn't paralyze them, it sharpens them, it pushes them to become more intentional, more present, more aligned with what they truly want. And what they truly want is no longer a mystery to them, it has your name written all over it in ways they can no longer deny. And this is where you will begin to see the clearest signs, not in grand gestures alone, but in the consistency of their presence, in the way they begin to close the gaps that once existed between you, in the way they start to choose you not just emotionally but practically, through their time, their attention, their effort, because when someone realizes your value at this level, they don't risk losing you to uncertainty, they move with purpose, even if it's quiet, even if it's gradual. It is real, it is steady, and it is leading somewhere meaningful, and at the same time, something within you will begin to shift as well, because connections like this don't awaken only one side, they mirror, they reflect, they pull both souls into alignment, and you may start to notice a deeper sense of clarity within yourself, a stronger awareness of what you feel. A subtle but undeniable recognition that something about this connection is different. Something about it feels like it was always meant to happen, and that is because both of you are now standing in the same truth, even if you haven't fully spoken it yet, even if it hasn't been defined in words, it exists, it breathes, it moves between you in ways that don't need explanation to be understood. And this is the final transformation of that moment that once seemed like a mistake, because it has now become the catalyst for something real, something grounded, something that is no longer waiting in the shadows of possibility but stepping into the light of reality. And as this continues to unfold, there will come a moment, a very clear, undeniable moment, where everything aligns, where words are finally spoken, where intentions are made clear, where the distance between what you feel and what you live disappears completely, and in that moment, you will look back at everything, at that strange confusion, at that unexpected reaction, at all the uncertainty that once surrounded it, and you will understand that none of it was accidental, none of it was meaningless, it was all part of a path that was guiding both of you toward this exact point, where nothing is hidden anymore, where nothing is left unsaid, and where the connection that once felt mysterious and unexplained finally becomes something you can hold, something you can live, something that no longer feels like a distant possibility but a present reality that both of you are ready to step into together, because in the end, what is truly meant for you doesn't get replaced, it doesn't get lost in confusion. It finds its way through every misunderstanding, every delay, every unexpected moment, until it stands in front of you as something undeniable, something real, and something that was always yours.